So before we move on to the next section, I want to talk more about shortcodes. We've used shortcodes to display forms, but I haven't really gone beyond that. In this lecture, we'll explore more about what you can do with shortcodes. We're going to keep things simple. I want to create a button where the user will be taken to a Twitter page. Inside the main plugin file, add a new shortcode. I'm going to call it Twitter Follow. I'm not going to bother namespacing it since this will be a rather generic shortcode. The function to call will be named rTwitterFollow shortcode. Inside the shortcodes folder, create a file named twitter-follow.php and define the function here. Lastly, include it. Basically, a shortcode is very simple. You just have to return a string, and that's what will be outputted onto the screen. We can take this a step further by allowing the user to add attributes and content just like a regular HTML tag. Let's set things up first. I'm going to paste in the following code. There's nothing special going on here. I'm just returning a link with some classes applied to it to make it look nice. I also have this nice little Twitter icon. This is completely static and will take the user to Twitter. I'm going to create a brand new page and use this shortcode. I want you to do the same. Make sure you publish the page. Alright, so I'm on the page and as you can see the shortcode is working as intended. This is nothing we haven't done before. The real power of shortcodes comes from allowing users to customize its behavior. Let's start with attributes. Just like regular HTML, shortcodes can have attributes and they are written in the same fashion. Back inside the edit page, I'm going to add an attribute called handle with a value of Udemy. You can name your attributes whatever you want, but WordPress does have a few rules. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the Shortcodes API. This page gives really great explanations about how to use the Shortcodes API. If you scroll down a bit, you'll find that WordPress says, important tip, don't use camel case or uppercase for your attribute names. We're going to keep things simple and just use all lowercase letters. Now that we're specifying an attribute, we can use it inside the code. Back inside the function, you can accept all the attributes by adding the parameter @. This will be an array with all the attributes where the key is the name of the attribute and the value is the value itself. Before we use any attributes, it's always good practice to make sure each one has a default value. I'm going to reassign my attributes to the function shortcode @. This is a special function meant especially for shortcodes. It will take in an array of attributes and make sure all default values are set. The first parameter is an array of default attributes. I only have one attribute, which is handle, and I'm going to give this a default value of Udemy. The second parameter to this function is the attributes itself. So what this will do is set a default value for the handle attribute if the user didn't input this attribute. We can now use this. I'm going to replace the static link with the handle name and use the attribute handle instead. Just like that, the handle name will be dynamic. I'm going to refresh the page and the link should be updated. So that's one way to extend shortcodes. The next thing you can do with shortcodes is use enclosed shortcodes. If you look at the shortcode on the edit page, you'll notice it's by itself. However, just like HTML tags, we can add an enclosed version like so. It's just the shortcode itself, but this time you're adding in a / to let WordPress know where it ends. Anything placed in between these two shortcodes will be passed into our function. I'm going to set this to follow us. Let's go back to the function and accept this new data. Inside the parameters, I can add a second parameter called content. This will contain the text inside an enclosed shortcode. Keep in mind that enclosed shortcodes are optional for users. I'm going to set this to a default value which will be null. Then I'm going to replace this text with the content variable like so. I'm going to refresh the page and as you can see the text inside the button was replaced. Shortcodes are very simple to use as a user and developer. They do make our code look cleaner and more readable. There is one last thing I want to show you. The content placed inside the enclosed shortcodes can also contain HTML and even shortcodes. However, shortcodes cannot be processed by shortcodes naturally. If you would like to process shortcodes inside a shortcode, then you'll need to do one simple thing. Back inside the function, I'm going to wrap the content variable with a function called doShortcode. This function does as its name suggests. It will take in a string and process the code inside. It'll process shortcodes if there are any. Just like that, our shortcode now supports shortcodes. This is optional to do because I usually recommend it if you have a shortcode that's very complex and you want it to be flexible. Alright, that's basically it for shortcodes. You can read the documentation to learn more cool tips and tricks for using shortcodes.